What's up, YouTube? It's Greg here from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. Well, looks like the SHSAT is finally going to come about. You guys should have registered by now. What I'm going to start doing is I postponed this for like 6 months, is to actually start going over the SHSAT handbook. I was hemming and hawing about using previous year's ones, but I'm going to use this year. I did the 2017 version. I can post a link to that actually here. Give me 1 second, where I go over every problem. I'm going to attempt to go over a problem here. It's not today. We're going to iterate and increment through it. Let's see, where could that be? That's going to be here. We're going to iterate and increment through it. Let me get the chat working here. Let's make sure we're live still. If anybody's out there, can you hear me? Let me do this because I kind of did this on a whim. I was planning on doing it. Let me try to just quickly bring it up on my phone and make sure that I'm actually getting a connection. The last time I did this, through the link that I just posted, there was like 23 parts. I'm expecting this would also take 23 parts. 1 second here. Let's see. And we're just going to rip each part one part at a time down. Let's see if I get. There's like 23 parts. I'm expecting this would also take 23 parts. Okay, we seem live. Let me turn my volume down here. Actually, I can keep the chat window open on my phone. All right, so it's been an interesting, crazy, weird, messed up year. Very confusing for everybody involved. This has not been a perfect year for a lot of reasons, and we're just going to try to start from here. Welcome, viewers. I see a few people out there. You can please say hi. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of talking. Today we're just going to kind of introduce things, and we're going to go kind of page by page through the handbook. It's going to happen maybe in 20 to 30 sessions, probably about an hour a piece. So if we do about one a day, it's going to take about a month. Okay. There will be times I can only do half an hour. There will be days I can't do it all. And there'll be days where it might be 2 of them, and there'll be days where I can do 2 hours. So we're just going to yin and yang this. I'm doing this through my own graciousness back to you guys. I'm a graduate of Brooklyn Tech. Hey, Sharad, how you doing? I'm a graduate of Brooklyn Tech. I love these kind of high schools. I like the kids who are in them. I like a lot of you guys' chutzpah, to use a great New York word, right? Our New York lingo. And I do my best to try to give back to you guys. I am a tutor. I do charge people as well. So anybody who needs my help to pay me, that would be great, because I have to earn a living too. Many of you guys know I give thousands of hours back to you guys. So I'd really appreciate that in return if it's possible. Even if it's just that one session. Could be you're confused about exponents, or it could be towards the end when the test day is coming, you're still having a problem with pacing. Many of you ask me questions I can often only answer generically. I don't know all your details. So I had a kid yesterday who asked me on Reddit whether do I think he was okay at Brooklyn Tech? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. And even if you pounded out a few paragraphs to me, I wouldn't know either. So this is the way we're going to work along. If you guys have questions, throw them out in the chat. And we'll just work forward from there. I won't be able to answer every question, so if I'm going to be focusing on the revising and editing today, kind of don't ask me math questions, because unless they're 2-second answers, I'm going to try to focus on each little theme. This way the sessions don't go wandering back and forth or whatever. Okay, with that in mind, I'm just going to jump into it. If you guys want to email me, you can. So let me go to the page involving some of what things are going to be about. Some of these pages in the handbook are not valid anymore. Okay, so in previous years, let me try to find the page from last year's handbook. And this is something you guys might not be aware of, and basically only my students know right now. So I'm going to drop some tidbits for you guys that'll help you quite a bit. Let me get to the right page on here. By the way, when I'm flipping between tabs back and forth, I only have one screen in front of me, so I'm not going to see your questions. Don't keep asking your question, just put it out there, and I can get to it when I get to it. I will see it. I won't necessarily see it the second you put it up, unless we're doing something like answering questions. And if you guys know how to solve a problem when we get to do it, please take your input. In past years, that's mainly been me talking. Okay, so it's this part right here. In fact, let me just make sure we're still live. Yeah, we seem to be. Okay, so in past years, the revising editing had 9 to 11 questions and 48 to 46 reading comp questions. If you notice this year, they say 9 to 19. There's 8 more there. And they took from the 38 here was previously 46. So there's 11, there's a variance there. Okay? This indicates to me that they're removing a passage. Here it says 5 to 6. Wait 1 second, my screen is... Okay, and last year it said 6. Now it's saying 5 to 6. So this is a hint between that and the 19 that they're going to remove a passage and add about 8 more questions into the grammar section. When I say grammar, I'm revising it, editing. It doesn't have to be strictly grammar. So that means for those of you who are challenged with reading comprehension, that might get easier. The problem is if they add those questions here, that doesn't make it easier. It probably makes it harder because a lot of you are not up to speed on grammar. A lot of your classrooms, in the classroom, you never taught grammar. So that's a problem there, okay? So what I'm going to do for now is talk a little bit about some generic stuff, and then we'll actually get into some of the stuff. So obviously you should take practice tests to get used to what the handbook is even about. Read all of this. I'm not going to cover it all, but you must read all this to have a better understanding of what the purpose and premise and design and actual question types could be like. A lot of you think the handbook is golden, and it is. It's better than a lot of the test prep handbooks and stuff out there, but remember that the DOE is not providing you a topic list. I have links to stuff like that you can get. The DOE is not providing that. In fact, let me pop those out while I just said it. I'm going to post up some links to some topic lists. 1 second. I'll put it into the chat. Okay, so for the math, I'm going to give you a previous YouTube and a PDF file. So there's two links I'm posting out there. Okay. But I'll do the same for formulas. And I think I just made a typo there. So put math space HTTPS for that one. So this is going to run to the same problem. So let me put the space in for you guys. There's 2 links here for formulas. Okay. There's a link especially for your grade 9ers for the geometry formulas. In fact, that's more of a discussion than an actual thing there. Okay. I have an ELA topic list and also a PDF of it. Okay, so today we're going to cover generic stuff, and we're going to start to look at some of the problems when we get to that point. This stuff about the main idea here, main idea is critical to the ELA reading comprehension section. If you don't do that, you're screwed. You're just screwed at the get-go. There's 2 parts to that. So I just put out 2 links for that. I have some stuff about reading comprehension here. Poetry, sorry. Hello, how you doing? So there's some poetry SHSAT stuff. There's 2 links there. Okay. I'm going to also pound out some stuff about reading comprehension. And I have a spelling error in there. So let me go back into here. So these are all links that you guys should be looking at minimally, the least you should do, okay? And don't say you know it all, because you don't. I get kids crying to me after the SHSAT who were not my students because they thought they knew something. And it turns out on test day they didn't. There ain't nothing like test day, guys, when it finally comes. All right? Yes, somebody's liking. Please subscribe to the channel. I will be doing this series, and there's hundreds of other videos I have here, probably with 1,000 hours of SHSAT material, including previous SHSATs I've run through. All right? All right, so I'm going to go back to the screen. So you want to be familiar with how the SHSAT is set up, okay? You want to be familiar with the questions, okay? And you want to be familiar with the directions. They're important as well, okay? You want to be familiar with the answer sheet. How do you bubble in a problem? A lot of you don't know that. In fact, this pacing strategies you can do with your bubble sheet. Instead of answering a question and bubbling and answering bubbling, how about you just bubble at the end of every page? And you can save 30 seconds. And if you save 30 seconds on every page, after 10 pages, you got 5 minutes down. If you do a problem in a minute and a half, you got from 3 to 10 questions you can answer there if you do some, right? All right, we'll skip this. Okay, so the revising and editing, okay, which I call the grammar section because the other choice is the math section, is kind of weirdish. It's not something you've ever really done, but think of yourself as a proofreader, okay? And they changed some of the text here. It's based on the language section. So they're really talking about grammar here of the New York State standards, which is Common Core at the moment, for grade 7. This is not true. This is not true because grade 7 in the classroom doesn't follow the New York State learning standards. Plus, New York City has its own standards on top of it. And we all know that the SHSAT is not that easy, that it's just grade 7 material. So this is misleading and almost a misnomer for them to say that. Okay? So, and then here's it directs you to read a sentence or a bunch of sentences or a paragraph. And then it asks you questions about it. Okay? So the question can be specific. Select the best answer. Okay? Identify an error, which just means you have to say like sentence number 4 was the problem, or improve the writing. Now, this section, instead of this SHSAT actually having you write a passage, this is the alternate for that. So instead of writing a passage, they're testing your writing skills by having questions. Okay, they're multiple choice, but if they're chosen correctly, there are certain things they can determine about you. Just like if they ask you to write an essay in a limited amount of time, that's also a constraining demand that they make on you. So this does have limitations, and so does writing an actual passage have limitations. Okay, and then they run you through some check boxes, which you should read. First, read the question, then read the text. So that's the advice they're giving you for the revising and editing section. This is different advice than the reading comprehension section. There's different things going on between the two of these. First of all, part A of the revising and editing section is really focused on sentences. Revising and editing part B is focused on paragraphs, but they're asking different things out of you versus the other thing. I'm going for Brooklyn Tech, guys. Yeah, do it. Do it. That's where I come from. My daughter went to Brooklyn Tech as well. I love the place. All the specialized high schools are wonderful places to be. I'm an equal opportunity high schooler. There's lots of high schools that are great, including ones that are not specialized high schools. There's Beacon, Bard, Townsend, Harris, Eleanor Roosevelt. They're all over the place. It's just a matter of getting to them and finding them. It's a good choice you have to make. And it's wonderful that some of you may not know you get to choose a specialized high school if you take the SHSAT, and you also get to choose a non-specialized one. And if you get into both, you can pick and choose. Or if you get into one, you got yourself covered on the other. Your worst scenario is getting into both, and you have to choose. You can also get into something like a LaGuardia on top of it, which is normally a performing art and an actual art school as well. So, all right. So there's a bunch of stuff they want you to go through here. A lot of it is about, so when they say read the question, okay, They're telling you to do that first, okay? But there's other ways to do that as well. You want to get about 40. If you get about 34, the question is how many questions need to answer correctly to get checked. You need about 34 on both sections to get through. That's on average, because scoring doesn't work that way. Scoring is based on the number of questions you get correct, and they get weighted, and then there's a curve applied at the end of it. So you want to be able to get to that. But that's minimal because there's 10 field questions on top of it. So at the least amount you want is 34 questions on each section. But more pragmatically and practically, you want 40. And this is true of all the schools. So it's a weird kind of answer. It almost sounds like I'm weasel wording out of the question. Because if you got say 44 right, you can get it to sty, and you're like, wait, the cutoff's that close? No, the cutoff's not that close. It's a question of how many questions you get right and which section, and if they were field questions or not. So, whereas if you got 40 right and 10 were field questions, then you only got 30 right, which means you're not getting into any specialized high school. So it's weird that way, okay? Okay, if you get 50 on math and 35 on the ELA, yeah, you should be able to get into there. This is different than what I'm doing for today's topic. I'm going to whip that up real quick. Give me 1 second. What did you say you got? 50 on the math and 35 on the ELA. Yeah, we're taking time away from what I wanted to say. Your score is going to be about anywhere from 550 all the way up to 600, basically. So if you take the median of that, you're going to get a 5-something. Tech has been inching up there, but the last one was like 507. So you should pretty much should be getting into Tech for that. Remember, test day can kill you, so you want the wiggle room. So just keep improving yourself, and you'll get there. Right, you want to be able to get there. All right, so what you want to do is be reading these questions real seriously. This is not like the ELA in your classroom. The ELA in your classroom, the teacher might ask you to read a passage or read a book and then interpret it. This is not about interpreting it. I can't look at my wall and say it's blue and then say, you know what, I think the author meant, you know, the life of man and the suffering of the pandemic. That's not what you're being asked to do on this test. You're giving specific choices with specific answers, okay? So that's what we're going to try to hone down, because a lot of you can view the math with reasonable perspective and say, oh yeah, it's asking me about exponents. But when you get to the ELA section, especially the reading comprehension, you're like, I can't memorize the passage. And the underlying truth of the matter is you don't need to. It's not about that. The kids who are doing that, you're missing the point. And that's one of the things I hope to communicate through this series, is that you guys are misidentifying what you need to do to solve this. If you go back to here, where it said, come on, now my computer's slowing down. Be familiar with the design of the test. They're asking you specific questions and specific ways, okay? Many of you don't realize that, or if you do realize it, you don't know what the ways are. They're asking you super laser-focused questions with laser-focused answer choices, especially in the ELA section. And this is where a lot of you just blow your mind. And you guys solve this by doing problem after problem after problem. I know students who've literally read thousands of passages with respective thousands of questions on it. You don't need to do that. That's throwing dots at a wall, just hoping one's going to hit, right? There's things underneath all this, not necessarily in the revising editing section, but certainly the ELA section, like main idea. If you don't grok main idea, you might as well throw the whole test out the window, okay? And you kind of can't just get it, right? And I posted some links to main idea videos I did the other day. If you don't understand what you need to do about main idea, you're not going to answer most of the questions on the ELA, or you're going to be guessing them. But you want to do better than guesses. The same with the revising and editing section. This is about grammar. Even though you can look at something that, say, that looks weird, you kind of need to know why it looks weird. This is about kicking you, screaming your way through the answers. And when you guys also get it wrong, you look in the handbook and you say, oh, that's what it says, next question. No, you should be analyzing that. You don't just nod your head and move on. So this is a strategy you want to study and prep with purpose, okay? Especially during these times where you're getting limited instruction through your remote sessions, and/or you're not in school every day. You're losing a lot of information, especially if it's talking about grade 7, even though we know that's not true. All right. So definitely read all these pages yourselves, guys. It's top level general information, but that's the deal there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start even with the sample ones. I'm not going to start with the formal question number 1 of the practice, because we need to analyze this and rip it apart. So remember, you have 3 hours to do this, most of you. You have 114 questions. You have about 1 minute and 20 seconds to answer every question. That's the math and the ELA. So with the ELA, that includes your reading time. Okay? So you have to answer your questions in less than 1.5 minutes. Probably 1 minute, including nasty ones with lots of details on it. Something like this. You got to read this whole thing here. That's a lot to read and process in 1 minute. Okay? So there's really the demands on your back, which is why you want to understand, especially in the ELA, what the different question styles are and things like that. Okay? So let's go back to this question, sample question number 1. So it says, so here's your instructions. That's it. Read the paragraph. Okay? Okay. And then here's your question. How should the paragraph be revised? There's code in here. It's saying should. There is an error. Okay? Because if you come back up to here, so where it says sample 1, select the best corrections for an error. Okay? In most cases, this is coded language. They like to throw out, the test writers like to throw out the best, or most likely, or what does it seem to do? Replace that with say, or be. Instead of select the best correction, put select the correction. Okay? Okay, it's not perfect, this mind frame I'm showing you guys right now, but it says, how should it be revised? That's laser focus. Okay, often they're going to ask, like, what's the most likely best way the paragraph should be revised? No, there's only one answer choice here. There is only one answer. There's not multiple. So you guys have to focus on that. Okay? So within each choice on this style of question, they're going to give you 2 possibilities. Change it to there and change this to that. So if you know one is false, you almost don't have to check the other one if you did it right. Okay? So every A, B, C, D within it has 2 choices. So there's basically 8 things you have to check. But if you notice, some of them are duplicate. So this says change its to there, and this also changed there to its. Whoa, that's confusing, right? Change it to them. So this thing's going on here, that might be duplicate or not. Okay? Okay, in this case, for the choices they put here, change whatever it's, visited, becomes, has been. Those are all underlined in this case. There's years where they didn't do that underlining for you guys. So it means once you see this, you can just look for the underlined words and try to find it. Okay? Even though it says read the paragraph, in this section here, where it's about sentences only, you're not necessarily reading this for the same level of reading comprehension in the reading comprehension section. You're reading this for grammar sentence errors, right? It says, what's the best correction for an error? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's asking you what sentence is wrong. Okay? It's not asking you for 5, and it turns out there's no sentence 5. So be careful of that too, because it may have said 2, 4, and 6. If, say, there was 10, and it doesn't care about the other ones. Now, in the reading comprehension section, you are reading paragraphs and passages to get information like main idea, the author's point of view, the tone, the setting, what's the character saying, what's the mood of the story, what's the point of this, what's the topic of each paragraph, all those kind of things like that. What's the difference between the main idea and the supporting detail? For this section, you're not worried about all that. It still has to be coherent, right? And you still have to match things back up and forth. But a lot of that is thrown out the window for this section. And you're really laser focused on the sentences. So this is about so A is about sentence number 1. Okay. Give me 1 second. My computer beach ball is spinning. I have a Mac going. Okay, so especially since they underlined in this case, and on SHSAT, your test may not have it underlined, so you need to be aware of that. Let me just make sure we're still live. It says YouTube is not receiving enough info. I wish somebody was out there to see if we were live. If anybody's out there, just say boo or something, because I'm looking at the YouTube window and it's telling me this stream is failing. If it is, I don't want to keep talking. If it's okay, I will. All right, let me talk for 5 minutes and see what happens. Oh, actually, I can raise my volume back up. Out there, just say boo or something. Okay, I just heard myself, so it's good. And by the way, as we go through problems, you can pause if you're on the replay. Pause, try to figure out the answer yourself, and then hit the replay and hear my explanation. So, with its luscious trees and grassy fields stretching like a green ribbon across Manhattan, pause, because there's a comma, New York Central Park is a natural oasis amid the bustling city. So they're asking you, is the it's of thing? So the obvious thing is, should it be, it is, as in IT apostrophe S? Is that the error? No. And then they're even asking us, should it be there? With its luscious trees. What's the it referring to? It's referring to Central Park. Okay? It's not referring to the city. It's not referring to Manhattan. It's referring to Central Park. The luscious trees in Central Park. So that's okay. Okay, great. All right, I see you wrote that as live. So that's okay. That's good. Okay? ITS, no problem. Okay, it's a pronoun. It's referring back to Central Park. It's cool. Okay? Okay, so that's false. So, and change is to was. So we have to find where the is. Where is it? I don't see it. I've done this problem 10 times already. Oh, here, right here. So this one's a little tricky because not only do we have to get the tense on the sentence, but we have to understand the tense of the whole paragraph. Okay? So it's saying with its luscious trees right now, that's true. So it is also right now a natural oasis. So is the right tense, because we can't say with its luscious trees right now, and then it was an oasis. Okay? So that doesn't work. And by the way, we can't use what we know about Central Park. A lot of you New Yorkers, you've been to Central Park. You're only supposed to focus on what they're giving to you. Okay? And they're giving this to us, that there's luscious trees. Even if tomorrow Central Park burnt down, it doesn't matter. That's not what this says. So you can only go by what it says. So right now, that sentence is now. Okay? So from that context, this is wrong as well. Okay? We already know this part's wrong. So we're just double checking that we did it right. So that seems wrong as well. Okay, so we think A is no good. Change visited to visit. Okay, so that's this here. Okay, so far the paragraph seems to be in the present tense. While more than 25 million people visited the park each year, they are also a temporary home to an abundance of migratory birds. Okay? So this makes it past tense. That makes it past tense. And they are to it is. Okay, so both of those seem to be good suggestions. Okay, and let's make sure 3 and 4 are in the tens. So the answer for now seems to be B. Both of those match. They're both truisms. Because it's talking about the present. So sentence 3 becomes to became. So where's that? Okay, so it's changing a little because now it's talking about spring and fall. The park becomes a bird watcher's paradise. That follows through. That's not a tense error. Prompting scores of avid birders with binoculars in hand to flock to it. Okay, what's the it they're talking about here? Okay, the topic that's running through here is Central Park. It's not the city and it's not Manhattan. The topic is Central Park. So that it seems okay. And then even it's them. What do they mean by them? Are they talking about Manhattan? They're talking about the city? Oh, wait, they must be talking about the birds. Are they talking about the bird watchers? Okay. No, it's talking about going to Central Park. So that's okay as well. Okay. 4, change has been to had been. Where is that? Over here. So more than 270 species of birds, including swallows, thrushes, and at least 25 different species of warblers, have been observed. Have been. Making the park their home in the big city. Okay, in this case, the there is the birds. Okay, it's not the city, it's not the Manhattan, it's not the park, it's not the bird watchers, right? Nobody's talking. They might be tourists. We don't care if they're citizens of here or they came from planet Mars. Okay, so that seems okay too. All right, so it turns out the answer here would be B. All right. All right. Anybody have any questions about that? Let me just check that we're live. There's a bunch of you guys out there. You're allowed to talk. This is about interacting. You don't just learn by sitting there. You learn by interacting. In fact, the more interaction we get, especially if we're laser focused on the topic, the better off we're going to be. And anybody catching us in the replay, if you're still not sure about a question or something, you can always email me, even though I have students and so on. Okay, so here it says select the best correction. And then it says read it and how should we revise. Okay, so that was the revision. We should do B. Okay, here we're going to read the directions. Identify a sentence with an error. They're not going to tell us the kind of the error that it is. Okay, again, we're told read the paragraph. Okay, which sentence should be revised to correct an error in sentence structure? So this is a little more specific than the previous one, where it was just like, how should it be revised? Yo, here's this blob, tell me what's wrong. And then they give specifics and the choices. Here they're telling us, read this bugger, and then the error is a sentence structure error. Okay? Up here, they didn't tell us what kind of error it was. They just said it had to be fixed. Okay? If you see an error, for argument's sake, that this sample number 2 has a spelling error, do not choose that choice because they are only asking for errors in sentence structure. There's something wrong with the way the sentence is grammatically put together, right? A sentence is a subject and a predicate. A subject can be a phrase, it could be nouns, it could have adjectives. A predicate should involve a verb, etc., etc., etc. That's what they're talking about here in this question. If you don't know what sentence structure means, then you have to grok it. You have to grok it is live, right? There's going to be terms they may end up using, and you have to figure it out. And hopefully you know what it means, because if you see a spelling error, hopefully you find a second error that you can choose from. Now, normally they don't end up adding extra errors. In something like this, they don't put extra errors just to try to throw you off. So traditionally, the only error in here would be the sentence structure error. Okay, so don't be kind of led astray with that. Okay, all right. So we have sentence 1, 2, 3, 4 is the choices E, F, G, H, and there's only 4 in here, so it could be anything in the paragraph. So they're telling you to read it. If you guys want to stop and pause, you can read it, or we could just jump into this because if you're catching on the replay while I'm bantering here, you guys could read it as well. So Madison Square Garden It's asking us for sentence 1 over here, so we're going to go there. Madison Square Garden is the oldest sports arena in New York City, having opened in 1968. Okay, so what we need to do is, because it's a sentence structure thing, we need to figure out exactly what do they mean here. Is there an error in this sentence? Anybody out there have any ideas? You may have gone through this problem already. I'm not sure. If you haven't, try to figure it out. Is there an error in here? So this is what we have to do in seconds. We have 4 of these that we have to rip apart within a minute. So we have about 15 seconds to do each one of these and decide whether there's an error or not. And if there is an error, is it a sentence structure error? Okay, anybody with a clue? Is this one good? Yay or nay? Okay. Well, if we take this first part here, right up to there, Madison Square Garden is the oldest sports arena in New York City. That's pretty clean. That's straightforward. Okay. Then this comma, having opened in 1968. Okay, this is a modifier. Okay, the question is, what does it modify? What opened in 1968? There's 2 things that could be the target for that. One is MSG, and the other is New York City, or the New York City area, right? There's 2 subjects going on in the first part. There's Madison Square Garden and there's New York City area. Which thing opened in 1968? Did New York City only open in 1968? I don't think so. And by the way, this is one of those things where I said before, you only can use the information that they tell you. Well, you can violate that a teeny bit, because we know New York City is older than 1968. Okay, so it's Madison Square Garden they're talking about that opened in 1968. The problem is this modifier is applying to the last subject that was mentioned in the first part. Okay, and that's New York City. That's applying to New York City. Give me 1 second. I'm loading a tablet up. Come on, let's not recognize it. Where'd my mouse go? Come on. All right, it's not picking up the tablet. Okay, it would enhance what we're doing. So having opened in New York City is applying to New York City. So that's an error. And that is a sentence structure error. Okay, so there's our error straight up. It's E. The modifier is applying to the wrong thing. The proper way to have written this may have been Madison Square Garden, having opened in 1968, is the oldest sports arena of New York City area, with appropriate commas perhaps even. But the way it's written here, it's no good. Also remember that in a lot of contexts, that the actual correction needed, in this case, they're not asking you what the correction is. They're just asking you what it is. For instance, if we go back up to here, it may turn out that you might say, even though there's a grammar error, once I do the corrections needed for B, the sentence still stucks. Well, that's the choice they're giving you. So you're picking it might still suck, but it's the best alternative there. Okay? So you might say, well, I could rewrite this sentence better than they wrote it. That might be completely 100% true, but that's not the choice on the test. All right? Okay, and just to run through some of these others real quick then. The construction of the garden caused controversy when portions of the iconic Pennsylvania Railroad were demolished, leading to the creation of a commission dedicated to preserving New York's historic landmarks. So that's a long kind of meandering sentence. That's interesting in its own right, but I don't know why it's not picking up this tablet. Trying to get this working while I'm talking to you guys. Although the garden is, yeah, so that's a long meandering sentence, but when you piece it together, it does all seem to fit. The construction of the garden, even though they're not the same Madison Square Garden each time, it's an uppercase It's definitely referring back to MSG. So the construction of the garden caused controversy when portions of the iconic railroad were demolished, leading to the creation of the commission. That's cool. Okay, 3. Although the garden is home to major sports teams and is a frequent host of major concerts, city officials are concerned that it stands in the way of expanding and modernizing Penn Station, which operates beneath the arena. That's a long, meandering sentence, but it turns out if you look at each part, it's cool. It's cool. Okay, it's home to the place, and I did, that's a pause because the comma's there, right? City officials. And by the way, there's a way to get some of this going. I'm not sure why it's not picking this up. Give me 1 second, guys. I just want to get the tablet activated because it'll help what we're doing. I just had a session with a kid too, and it worked perfectly. And the battery is good, so I don't know what's going on. 1 second. No, it tells me the driver's dead. All right, I'm going to give up on that for now. I'm only going to go another 20 minutes maybe or something anyway. We're going to do maybe the sample and the next sample as well. And I'll figure this out for the next time. So if we take from here to here, we have something, comma, and then the blue thing. If we can flip that, in most cases, if you can flip that and it still makes sense, most likely your sentence is good. Okay? And then number 4 is in 2013, the city council voted giving the owners of MSG a 10-year permit. Pause, meaning that MSG may need to locate by 2013. Okay, that's cool. You can't say meaning this whatever, but the word meaning is there as the transition operative going on there. So you could theoretically flip it without that. MSG may need to relocate by 2020 because the city council counted. So that works if you add that in there. And that's, again, a way to double check it. Anyway, there's lots of commas and phrases in here, but they're all cool as well. All right, so does that make sense? So the error is, and the clue in is that they will almost always give this dangling modifier or misappropriated modifier to you guys on one of the questions, if not more than one of them. So now that you know that this could be one of the possibilities that they're going to throw at you, just know it's there. And what you want to do is, even though it gave the advice to read the question first and then go through the choices, okay, in this case, the choices are meaningless, they're just the sentence numbers. When you're reading the paragraph, that's when you want to find the error. No matter what it says, as you read the paragraph, this should have smacked you right in the face that it says this here as you were reading it. It should just whack you right in the head that was the case. Okay? And you're just done at that point. You already recognize that would be what the problem is. Okay? Okay, and go through this by yourself. Read all the suggestions they're giving you here, which hopefully re-emphasizes everything I'm saying. Stuff like that. Okay, this is a different type of a question. It says, improve the writing by combination. So this is a totally different thing. By combining sentences. So in this case, there's usually guaranteed no error in the original sentence. So the sentence number 1 here and sentence number 2 here. They're both fine. They're asking you, how do you improve this? Now, you may argue A, B, C, and D all suck. They're not an improvement. Well, that's what they're asking you to do, and they're claiming it is an improvement. You may also argue that you could split this up maybe into 2 different kind of sentences in a better way than their 2 sentences was. That may be true. It's not asking you what to do. You may also argue you can split this up into choice E that's better than A, B, C, and D. They're still not asking you to do that. They're asking you out of these choices, what is the way you can do this? Okay? So this turns out to be a pretty involved, kind of hard question when you think it through. Okay? And it means that ripping these things apart. So it says read the sentences. Again, we're talking about improving, combining, okay? Or revising part of a sentence. So it means when we add 1 and 2 together, what's the most sensible, pragmatic, reasonable way to do that without destroying what was originally there and without adding a lot of stuff that wasn't there either? Without reading this, it's talking about whales here. If an answer choice threw in sharks, it's probably the wrong answer because it's not revising what the author originally wrote in these 2 sentences. So that's the kind of line you have to deal with here. For instance, if it didn't talk about whales being the giant of the ocean, because that's pretty there, if one of the choices, that's it. It's probably not the answer choice. So what's the most sensible way to combine the info, the facts, the structure of what they're telling you here, grammatically and pragmatically? You want the syntax to be right, which means the way it's laid out, and you also want the semantics to be right, which is the meaning of what's being said. So when you're combining the 2 sentences, you can't be throwing away meaning, and you can't be adding other meaning. For instance, it talks about attracting a mate, calling out, helping navigate. You can't say whales are also good for sightseeing. That's not something that's too far out there, okay? If they would have changed giants to super large, that might make sense. But that's still not even asking what you're doing to you. So the first thing you want to do when you're doing the combination is figure out, like, what's the topic here, okay? And the topic in this case is whales, okay? And often they're going to often there's even 3 sentences here, and they repeat it. So instead of repeating the word whales, they use they. So imagine that they there actually said whales, okay? So a first sentence would be, whales are the giants of the ocean, and they spend their lives in underwater song. Okay, so they're focusing on whales being large, and they're singing a lot of the time, apparently. Okay, we overheard about the whale noises and so on, but we don't want to involve those in this thought process because it's not saying that. It's just saying that there's whales, they're large, they live in the ocean, and they sing all day long. Okay, they, meaning the whales, use their voices to attract a mate, call out to one another, and help navigate new environments. Okay, so it turns out that these phrases here, attract a mate, call out to one another, and help navigate new environments, those are not standalone things. They're not saying this 2 sentences, either by itself or whatever, is not saying whales call out to one another. It's not saying whales attract a mate. It's not saying whales help navigate new environments. It's saying they use their voices to do that, right? It's you can say, well, if a whale uses their voice to attract a mate, then a whale must be attracting a mate. Yes, that's true, but that's not what they're asking you to do in the sentence combination here. Okay, so be careful on something like that. Now, when we look at the choices, they all almost look the same. Whales are giants of the ocean, A. B, whales, the giants of the ocean. C, whales are giants of the ocean. D, whales, comma, the giants of the ocean. So what we notice is most of A, B, and C, D look the same in every single choice. All right? And that's what makes this hard. So what's the best way to combine these without being redundant? At least don't keep repeating the word whale. And even they didn't. So what we want to do is analyze this. In fact, this is laid out nicely. And I'm talking about some of this without even looking at the choices yet. Because as you get used to this, you can almost second guess what the answer should be. Okay? So whales are giants of the ocean, and whales spend their lives underwater. So they put they there. So they didn't repeat whales, but they put they twice. So how about maybe we can even get rid of they altogether? as we combine it. So whales, the giant of the ocean, cool, spend their lives underwater, cool, and use their voices to attract the mate, call out, and navigate. That's it. That's the combo. Whales are big. They spend their lives underwater, and they use their voices to do three things, right? And I'm going to guess that voice three things is the killer there, right? So the facts are not that they're giants, spend their lives underwater, attract the mate, call out, and help navigate. The top three are their giants, spend their lives singing, and use their voices. The other three facts are facts of the singing of the voices, right? There's a level here. There's top three facts: giants, spend their life in song, and use their voices. The mate, the call out, and the navigate, they're under a hierarchy under voices. So that's important that when we map this, whatever the answer choice be, to that. So let's see which one might capture the three facts in the best way. So before we actually get into that, you're going to see some of these and you'll be like, that's so awkward, it's ridiculous. So you should use that. We're not trying to solve this with our gut, though, so that's important to note, too. You could read something that's just so awkward, so twisted up, so many commas, so whatever. So that implies sometimes the easiest version of this is the best one. But sometimes that's not true. So be careful here when you're going with your gut and deciding on, like, oh, it looks kind of pleasant. Hey, dude, let's eat a chocolate bar and just enjoy the sentence. No, that's not really where we're going or what this is about or what you need to do. You really need to rip them apart and get at that and really decide what's happening here. So let's take each part in turn. Whales are giants of the ocean. Cool. That was one of the things. Spending their lives underwater. So I said, how about getting rid of the they here? But they moved from spend to spending. So let's see if that works. Using. So they're going to do ing on everything. So whales are giants of the ocean. Spending and using and calling and helping. Okay, they broke something here. Do you see what they broke in this choice? They said whales are the giants of the ocean and these other four facts. But remember, these three facts here were tied to the voice. And they threw that away. They made the voice its own fact. They said they're using the voice to attract the mate. And also, by the way, they also call out to one another. No, they use their voice to call out to one another. And they also use the voice to help navigate. So they broke that. There was meaning. There was meaning in the sentence number 2 that they threw away. So A is no good for that reason. A can't work. Boo hiss. Okay? All right. Whales, so we're going to go to B. Whales, the giants of the ocean. So they put that in commas. So it's a little more interesting now. Whales spend their lives in underwater song. Okay, so if we throw away the they, like I said, they spend their lives in underwater song. Cool. So we fixed the problem where they kind of violated it there. So we're cool up to this point. Up to here. Then they use their voices to attract a mate, call out to one another, and help navigate new environments. Okay, that looks fairly clean. I wonder if that's it. Okay. It's slightly ambiguous because we're not sure if this is by itself or they're tying it to use their voices to attract a mate. Okay? The problem here is that they didn't use and there. There's no and. So it could be interpreted the way I said it would be erroneously or not. But so far B is better than A, so let's just see how that goes. Okay, C. Whales are giants of the ocean. Cool. Spend their lives in underwater song. Cool. Use their voice to attract a mate. Okay, this runs into the same problem. Okay. We're not sure. Okay, D looks like B. Yes. Okay, if you follow D and B, which I said B was the best one. Whales, the giants of the ocean, cool. That's what's up here, whales, the giants of the ocean. Spend their lives in underwater song. Spend their lives in underwater song. This said use their voices, call out, and help navigate. This says using their voices to attract, to call out, to help. Do you see the difference there? So D is the answer, just because of this word using. That's our semantic, meaningful way to distinguish that the voice applies to the next three things. The voice applies to the attracting the mate, the voice applies to the calling out, and the voice applies to that. And the word to is understood. Using the voices to attract the mate, to call out to another, to help navigate. All right? So this was actually a harder problem. The good news is as you go through problems like this, there's patterns that do emerge that doesn't mean they're going to ask it for you. Like I mentioned on the other one, they will most likely give you a dangling modifier one or something involving modifiers. They're not necessarily going to do that here. So you may never see this kind of combination form again. But again, it's about grammar, and you're supposed to know all grammar. So there you go, bro. It's about standard language English conventions. We'll talk about that more the next time. All right, let's see. How much did I go here? All right, I'm going exactly an hour right now. If I did this right, wait, did I do this? Wait a second. Yeah, we're 58 minutes. I think that's the last practice one they had there. Yeah, the next is B. So how about it? The next time I do section B, if anybody has follow-up questions to what we just covered now is a good time to ask because I'm going to disconnect. Again, I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. My info is scrolling along at the bottom there. Please like the video. Please give me a thumbs up. Since there's going to be about 20 parts here, please subscribe so you get notified. I'm probably going to follow up right now and do a problem of the day. If you guys don't know what that is, every day I do another SHSAT problem. So far it's been math-based. Let me pop out a link for that for anybody who doesn't know about past ones. Actually, wait. Let me see here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so it's like 50 or 60 of them already in there. Basically, once they said the SHSAT was postponed, I just started doing this for some students. They already had studied when November 6th came along, and they didn't know what to do, so I just kind of throw this out there once a day. Again, I have hundreds of YouTubes already about the SHSAT, including a previous year's review. Go back in the chat. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, you can scroll on the scroll line, and it brings up the chat the appropriate places. And then we'll just inch along. So the next time we're going to do revision B, then we'll move on to the reading comprehension, then we'll do the math, we'll do grade 9 math. That's all Form A. And depending on how this goes, because it's going to take a few weeks, I guess, if we do once a day, 20 sections or whatever, that's where we're going to go. Just take bite-sizable pieces. In the meantime, you guys can ask questions and yada, yada. All right? And if anybody needs tutoring, I'm your guy. All right? Peace out, everybody.